Hi Facebook. It is right on Wednesdays, and it is time for our recap from Sunday, where we talked about the brain, the writing and the brain, not pinky and the brain, but writing and the brain. Sorry, I'm trying to get this camera right. So, our recaps or our takeaways from Sunday's video. First of all, I hope you guys had an awesome day. I did. I enjoyed myself on today. I got a little sleepy about 3 o'clock. That's my little sleepy time where I'm ready to kind of shut it down. But I had work to do. I don't know if you guys saw my post. My boss left me some assignments to do, and I don't think he's expecting me to finish them before he gets back. He's out of town for a week. But I just started working and the ideas started flowing, so I'm just about done with at least the outlining part of what he left me to do. I have a little bit more reading to do, and no, I'm not going to be able to finish all of it by Friday, by the time he gets back. But I am working on it, and so that's what I did today. Got a lot of outlining done, some scripts written for some videos to present to the students of ASU. Once fall starts, we're going to kind of hit ASU hard in terms of the Writing Center and getting our name out there, kind of, I think, for the first, maybe, branding the Writing Center and just letting the campus and the students know that we are there to serve them. So I am super excited to, pitch my ideas, present my ideas to my boss when he gets back sometime next week. So that was my day. I hope you guys had an awesome day. I'm going to try to keep this short. Try to keep it to 10 to 15 minutes. So on Sunday, we talked about the brain and how writing and the brain go together. We discussed one of the major things that we discussed on Sunday. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch the video, or if you just watched the recaps, which is fine. One of the main points that you should take away from this particular part of the series that is called It Is Written is that our brain is preparing to speak what we write. So the Broca's area, we talked about that the brain, or the cerebrum, is the largest part of the brain, and it's actually divided into 4 parts. And I showed you guys a picture where the cerebrum kind of goes from like this little part, you got a nugget right there, that little part all the way up. And the frontal lobe is responsible, which is this part, is located in this area, is the part of the brain that's responsible for language. So it is in this part where the Broca area is located, and it has to do everything with our ability to speak. As a matter of fact, it has to do with our speech, which breaks down into our ability to speak and write. And those functions and those capabilities take place in what is called the Broca's area. So we found out on Sunday that Johns Hopkins did a study, and they found out that the Broca's area may be writing the script. Your Broca's area may be organizing the strings of sounds that express our written ideas. So what is happening in our brains when we write is that your brain is putting the sounds of A together and B together and T together and spelling that, and it's processing these sounds, not necessarily the letters, but it's processing the sounds, and it prepares to speak what we are writing. So I shared with you guys that the Broca's area is where the brain, or where, your brain is organizing the string of sounds that express your ideas. Like, how wonderful is that our brain is that in tune with the actual process of writing, that is preparing to speak what we write. And that was takeaway number 3. Our first takeaway was that the cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. So it stretches from here, trying to get y'all a good view, from here all the way up to here. The largest part of the brain is divided into 4 parts, and this is our frontal lobe here, and that's the part of our brain that's responsible for language, and that the brain is actually prepared to speak what is written. I think that is awesome, guys. Like, I just do. I think that is so awesome. So those were our takeaways from this week's video, and we got into speech and how speech is actually broken down into 2 categories. You have your speaking part of speech, and you have your writing part of speech, and both of those break down into a language. So we have what we know as the spoken language, and we also have what is known as the written language. And we discussed that languages have rules, they have standards, and they have conventions. That's why we could all go to school and learn what a noun is, learn what a subject is, learn what a verb is, and it's a universal thing or a universal rule and a standard in the English language. This is what verbs do. Verbs express action. And so any type of language, even our spoken language, our written language, whether it be English, Spanish, French, it has a set of rules, it has a set of standards, it has a set of conventions. This is what makes it a language. We also talked about that word language is defined as the words, their pronunciation, and their methods of combining them, and they're being used and understood by a community. So you don't have a language if they're not, the sounds and the words and their pronunciations are not being combined. You don't have a language if the people or a group of people or a community of people are not using it. I'm in a linguistics class, and it talked about, if a producer or a movie director or a writer of a script makes up a new language, how likely is it for that language to take root and become like a bona fide language like English? And the teacher was just saying it's very hard, because you have to get a group of people in a community, in a setting, to speak that language. So I may start off with this language, I'm just gonna call it gibberish. I may start off speaking gibberish, but then I've got to teach some more people what gibberish is, and that catching on and being used on a widespread basis is a big deal. Now, he also mentioned today when I was, listening and taking the notes for the class on today, that there's so many languages they really can't keep count. They estimate that it's about 6,000 to 7,000 languages that exist in the world, but they know they have not talked to or even, had communication with everybody in the earth to even know if that's an accurate count. So I thought that information was amazing. So just like the English language as it is written and spoken has conventions, standards, and rules, language itself encompasses those things. You don't have a language or you don't have a written language. That's what I'm trying to get to. That our written language has rules, it has standards, and it has conventions that we need to be mindful of. And this is why the ability to write in English or any language transcends states, it transcends schools. I should be able to go to a school in California and still find out what a verb is, what a subject is, what the symbol for and is, because it's something that's universal and known to everybody in our community. And by our community, I mean people who write and speak in the English language. So that was the definition for language. I also gave you some more definitions that got into writing styles. Also that the fact that language is a systematic means of communicating ideas or feelings, and we know we can do that verbally, which is our spoken language, and we can also do that by writing information down, which is our written language. So I don't know if anybody's ever thought about our ability to speak and our ability to write as a language, but by definition it is. It's the words, their pronunciation. We combine them when we write. We combine words and their combinations and their sounds and their letters to speak. Even we do this when we write, and it's understood by a community. When I finish talking, if you have the ability to comprehend what I'm saying, then you're understanding my spoken language, and you're inadvertently understanding my written language, because I've written a lot of this stuff down. So you are getting exposed to my writing because I'm speaking to you. And so that's one thing we talked about on the last video, that what is written eventually must be read, even if you're the only person that's going to read it. So that was series 1 or part 1. Oh, sorry guys. That was part 1 of series 3. We're on our 3rd series. So yay, that's exciting. So we also talked about reading and the heart of reading. We talked that we're getting to literacy, and the fact that literacy is both written and it has a writing component, and it also has a reading component. So this past Sunday I introduced the reading part of literacy, and we found out that to read just basically means to call out or to address by name. It also means to mention or proclaim, and it also means to pronounce, publish, read, or say. So when we are reading, I showed some letters on Sunday that letters have names. This is the letter, y'all can see, yep, E. That has a name. That symbol is that letter is an E. I want to call it a symbol, but it's not. That's an E. That's an H. So we talked about how letters have names, and that when we put those letters together, they have specific names because they're spelling out words. So when you put ADRIANNE together, you're spelling something specific, which is my name, Adrian. And so when we pronounce these names accordingly, because of the conventions, because of the structures, because of the rules of language, like the A and the I and the D, the R, the I, A, N, and E, it makes certain sounds. So when we know the rules of language and what the letters sound like and what each letter sounds like, and we begin to blend and all of that good stuff, guys, that's how we begin to read. But remember what is actually written down. Your brain is already processing the sounds to say them. So I know we should be teaching our kids reading and writing. If I'm teaching my nephew Wade how to spell his name, which he does know how to do, then I need to be at the same time like W, he needs to be writing these things down. He needs to write down the A. He needs to write down the D. He needs to write down the E. And because his brain is already familiar with the sounds, they've taught him the sounds. And so he'll speak because his brain is already processing those sounds as Wade. Okay? So we talked about that, and we also talked about how reading involves, it has an order. There is an arrangement to reading, and it was just based off the definition, because some more, or the very fundamental, when you break down reading, it has a what they call a root word or a root definition, or I think this may be my Greek. So I have some, that may be my Greek. So anyway, it means to know again, to read, to piece. Each is a piece of or each. But it means to know, have knowledge, perceive, be resolved, can see, speak, be sure, and to understand. So reading has an arrangement. And the first thing you do when you read, you know the letters, you know sentences, you know punctuation marks, you know how to, for us, we read from left to right and not right to left. We're reading this, for you guys gonna look that way, but we're reading this way. And so we know that it's an absolute thing that this is an A when we're reading. We know that. Our brain knows that. Our brain also knows the sound that it's an I, depending on if it's Adrian, apple, or what's another word? Apple, Adrian, those kinds of things. Our brain is so phenomenal and so awesome that it recognizes these things. So knowing is the very first thing. We just come to the table when we are literate, knowing A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on and so forth. The next thing you need to do when you are reading is be aware of. You have an awareness of what's taking place within the context or the text that you are studying or reading or perusing through. You may just be skimming the pages. You are aware of what you're reading. So maybe you're reading a mystery novel, so you're aware of that there are going to be some clues being given to you as you read. The next thing we talked about is you bring your senses, or you don't bring your senses to the table. If I've never been bungee jumping, if I've never seen bungee jumping done or performed, then I don't bring that to the table if I'm reading about bungee jumping. So we have feelings associated, or we bring feelings to the table when we read. And the more exposure we've had to other cultures, the more exposure we've had to other people, to other languages, to other texts, then we're going to bring more of ourselves. We're going to bring more of an understanding to the table when we read. A part of the reason I believe people are struggling, especially our youth are struggling now, is because a lot of them, at least the ones I've taught, they've never been anywhere. They don't like to read, so they don't bring the exposure of other texts to the table with them. And so it limits their ability to understand, because they zone out, they get bored. they're not in tune, they're not involved in the reading process because they don't bring anything to the table. They don't even bring an expectation to get out of what they're reading something that they can take home with them or share with somebody else. So this may be a reason why we're losing people and more people are becoming illiterate, which is a concept where you are able to read, you just don't do it. A lot of the kids that we teach, guys, fall into the area of being illiterate. They know how to read, they just choose not to read because they've been turned off, especially in middle school. Based off my research, kids get turned off to the reading process in middle school. So that's just a tidbit for you. The next part of arranging or the arrangement of reading that takes place is to have the knowledge. Again, this is what you bring to the table. In education, you may hear this sometimes called your schema. Is what you already know about a topic. So if I'm reading about ice cream, well, I know ice cream comes in many different flavors. I know you have many different brands of ice cream. I know some people prefer maybe butter pecan ice cream versus chocolate ice cream. I know we can go to the store and purchase ice cream, or we can go buy Brewster's and purchase ice cream. And I also know that Brewster's makes their fresh ingredients, homemade. It's very, very sweet to me. You know, those kinds of things. I bring all of that to the table, or I should bring all of that to the table when I'm reading. But think about children and adults who have limited experience in life. Maybe your students grew up on the east side and they've never been to the north side of town. That's a limited perspective for them. So if you talk to them about, you know, you in Georgia, you start talking about California, they don't know nothing about that. So because they don't know anything about it, they zone out and they're not actively engaged in the reading. So one thing we have to do is really introduce people and children to other cultures, and thank God for technology. It's so easy now for us to show people different places, take people on field trips, take people across seas, across the water, across the borders of the state that they live in via technology. So we have a heads up, I believe, versus, you know, the people, our ancestor people of old, people who have come before us, who had to walk everywhere, taking trains, wagons, and those kinds of modes of transportation, because it too kind of limited their mobility and their ability to experience other cultures, other people, other places as quickly as we can. So we bring all of that to the table with us, or we should bring it to the table. And one thing about this arrangement, we can use this arrangement, I believe, once we get skillful enough, or if you're already skillful enough. I'm saying once I get skillful enough, I believe I'll be able to pinpoint exactly where the child is kind of missing the link, and I can start nurturing that area. I can start building upon that area. Maybe they don't bring an awareness to the table. Maybe they don't bring any feelings to the table because maybe they got anger issues, and the only anger they express is anger. And so this story it's a love poem. They can't get with that. So maybe I need to expose them to other material that talks about love, that talks about hope, that talks about these other areas they don't bring to the table, so that they can begin to have those emotions, have those senses when they come to the table, no matter what they're reading, and they're not Christmas treeing on these in the course exams and those kinds of things. So just some strategies possibly I know are going to be birthed forth out of this particular arrangement. So the next thing is the ability to perceive, and in our perception, then we're able to analyze, synthesize, ask questions, predict, because we are critically looking at the text that we are reading. And so once you are able to perceive what is going to happen next, well, dog, he did that, and this was the cause and effect. Once you begin to, within yourself, analyze, or even verbally begin to synthesize and begin to ask yourself questions like, dog, I wonder what's going to happen next. Like, I love shows like NCIS. I love shows like CSI because I'm the person who's trying to figure the case out by the end. I often don't get it done, but I'm trying. I'm trying to figure out who did it. Where did they? I'm the clue person. Who did it? Where did they do it? With what weapon? In what room? I'm that kid. I'm that person who's trying to figure the series out or the TV show as I'm watching it. And this should be the same process we're doing as we're reading. We should be perceiving what's going on and what's going to happen next based off of what we've already read, so that we can make some generalizations as we're reading. We can analyze the text. We can make some predictions as we're reading. We can even draw some conclusions. This is where all of those things come into play. Their ability to perceive the whole text and then the sentences and how they build upon one another as we're reading. And then you resolve. Okay, so let's draw some conclusions. If he did that, if John hit that girl upside the head, and y'all don't know what this example is coming from. John hit the girl upside the head. What's going to happen next? You know, what conclusions can we draw from this? We might can draw that John is angry for some reason. Maybe she did something to him. We can draw that he may get suspended or he may get expelled, depending on where he is in that process. We can draw conclusions, or we can resolve what is going to happen next. Same thing in our science experiments. Miss C, I have not forgotten about you. This is your information. I got this from studying, you know, because of what you asked me. So this same thing can happen in science. If I mix this with that, what is going to be the chemical reaction? So it's across the board. These particular steps I'm sharing with you can be used across the board. You just have to make it fit your particular content area is what I'm trying to get out. And so then the next thing is you speak about what we read. We actually discuss, or we should be discussing what we read. Remember, the brain is already processes what is written, and it is preparing to speak, especially when you write the information down. So as we're reading, our brains are probably preparing to have a discussion about what we actually read. Maybe kids are not reading as much as they used to because they're not able to discuss as much as they used to the text. I remember y'all discussing that Harry Houdini in the 3rd grade with Miss Woodard. I remember discussing that book. I remember the pictures and the images of that man in the tank and him locked up. I remember it, but we had a discussion about it. I remember my dad took me to the magic shop and everything, y'all, to get this little book. I don't know if we had it. I don't know if we had to do a magic trick or just, I can't remember. But I remember that story. But I remember we discussed it, is my point. We discussed it. We talked about the reading. We shared with one another what we thought about the reading. And possibly that's the element that's missing now in school, because now everything is so writing focused. The students possibly don't get a chance now to verbalize as much as they used to what they read. How do you feel about it? What did you know already before you read the text? It's now so test driven, and so right, how can you explain yourself? Well, maybe I need to verbalize what I'm seeing first as a practice run, so when I do get the test, I'm able to verbalize in a written form, you know, more clearly, more precisely, more concisely, you know, because of the fact that I have a thought process now. My teacher has created a thought process for me, or a comfort zone for me to feel comfortable discussing text I'm not familiar with. So maybe that's, I believe that's what's a part of what's missing, you know, in our classrooms now across the curriculum, not just in English or literature, our literature classes, but across the curriculum. And I know it's partially not our fault. We're trying to get through the standards, trying to make sure the kids are prepared for the test. We are trying to make sure they're prepared to write about what they know and write about the analysis and how this text goes with that text. But maybe we do need to incorporate some more discussion. I know I didn't have as many discussions with my students about the text itself because I was so focused on getting them to understand the text so they could write about it. So it wasn't pleasurable. It wasn't, hey, we're just going to read this just because. The way the curriculum is set up now, it's no time for a just because moment until the test is over, which is kind of after the fact. So one of the last two steps is to be sure, you know, the kids are confident, or the adult is confident, because this isn't just for students, but the adult or the kid or the individual is confident about what they read, and now they're able to analyze it again from a different perspective. You're sure that you know the basis, the roots of Little Red Riding Hood. Now you can go back and look at the wolf and analyze him and do a critical analysis on him and ask yourself some questions about him, you know, that you weren't able to do in the beginning. So you guys see how it's building off of each other. Is you are progressing through the reading process and also the critical analysis that comes behind your ability to be able to read and get an understanding. And then here I have a note that at this stage, you're sure, and then you're able to do some self-analysis. Did this particular text change you? Do you have some experience in this? Is this something you're going to tuck away? I know one story that stood out to me is that, I think we probably all know it, I'll love you forever, as long as I'm living, my baby you'll be, and the mom takes care of the son, and then at the end of the text, we see the son taking care of his mom in the same spirit, in the same, not spirit, in the same manner as his mom took care of him. And so I believe probably everybody who read that book, they were touched right here in the heart. The book, you know, the words on that page touched you right here in the heart. And reading should change us. So that's why we have to be careful what we read, what is read to us. We need to be careful of that, because it does have the words have the ability to change us and shape us and mold us. That's why we have to be careful what we say, because words are just that powerful. I know I talked about in the last series, sticks and stones do hurt. So I can't be running around here talking about sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Not true. They can hurt me. They do hurt me. People say things and they hurt our feelings. So we have to be careful what words we use. We have to be careful what words we read, because they are impacting us. And when we read something that's that good, it does impact us. If you read Who Moved My Cheese, it impacted you if you read it and you enjoyed it. Some stuff it doesn't impact us because we don't enjoy it. And then the last thing we talked about, you understand it so you can apply what you read. If I read and I understood Who Moved My Cheese, then I can see I need to be changing. I don't need to get stuck in one spot. I need to be constantly evaluating the situation around me to see, hey, am I still enjoying this? Am I still liking what I do? And if not, like, how come? What's different? Is it me? Is it the cheese? Did the cheese change? Did they change something here? And I'm constantly should be making adjustments based off of the information that I'm reading, based off of the information that I'm learning as an individual. And we are able to apply what we read, and that's the final frontier, that you've applied the information that you've read in some capacity. And so because we're not having these real world application opportunities anymore, you know, within our classrooms, possibly not everywhere, guys. I'm just speaking from experience, because we just don't have the time a lot of the times to make some of this information applicable to the students, and some of it is not. If they've never been diving and they have no intentions of going because they live in South Georgia, in the southwest region of Georgia, I'm not surrounded by an ocean. I've never even been to the ocean. So in their minds, this doesn't apply to me. And so as a teacher, we've got, or as teachers, as educators, as professors, you know, the best we can possibly pull in some text that they have some experience with and teach them the concepts, so that when they get to these exams, even though they may not bring as much information to the table, they'll be able to go through this arrangement and still at the end get an understanding enough to be able to write whatever the prompt is asking them to write. Because I know that trips a lot of our students up. They just don't like, man, I don't know nothing about that. Anybody care about that passage? You know, so we can stir up within them a care for things they care about before that, then it'll be so ingrained in them that they'll do it regardless of what the passage is. So that's our recap. Reading has an arrangement, writing has an arrangement, our brain has an arrangement, and it's all working together so that we are literate individuals. So that's series 3, part 3, is we're going to get into basic literacy on next week. I think this particular recap is better than the actual original version. But maybe not. I still didn't go back and watch it, so maybe not. But I hope you guys will give me some feedback on all of the videos. Look for these videos to repost to your timeline on Friday, and also look for part 3's advertisements to hit your timeline on Saturday. Those are doing really well numbers wise, so I can see that they're reaching you guys, and that you guys are seeing them and commenting and liking them and that kind of thing. So I thank you for all the likes. I thank you for all the shares, followers. I thank you so much for the words of encouragement that you guys have given me just over the last couple of months that I've been doing this. I really do enjoy coming to you guys in this capacity. I am in the process of making some more videos, So look for those. I wrote some scripts. Matter of fact, I wrote some scripts back in April that I'm going to start making into videos soon. So look for that. I am uploading these particular videos to YouTube. So please go subscribe to my page so that you'll get reminders when they're actually uploaded. I'm in the process of doing that. Thank you so much, Anna K. Sterling, for sending me that link. It worked. It was simple. It was easy to use. And the videos are being uploaded to YouTube. I have started that process. Not quite finished, but I have started. So I look forward to seeing you guys. Guys, it's Mother's Day on Sunday. So I think I'm going to ride up to see my mom. I'm not sure yet. Not 100% sure. But I want to see my mommy and my daddy. And I can catch a ride with my aunt and my uncle. So I think I may ride on up. So if I don't get on Sunday, that's where I am. But I think I'll be at least somewhere where I can get some internet service to come to you guys. Maybe not here, but possibly get a chance to come to you guys still at our regular time at 6:45. So I will see you guys then, God willing. If, you know, some stuff works out all the way around, I'll be prepared to come on live wherever I am. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Or I may film it in advance and post it at our regular time, and maybe this time it just won't be live. I may do that. We'll see. So I enjoyed you guys. That is our recap for tonight right on Wednesdays. I hope you guys had a great week so far this week, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week and that it is good to you, that you guys get some things out of life this week, out of your jobs, out of your family members, that you guys have a good time, that you are refreshed, that you are rejuvenated. Whatever you need, I hope that you guys get it before the week is out. So I will see you guys hopefully on Sunday. Again, if I am not on here, you guys know where I am. So see you guys. Hug and kiss your mommies. They are awesome. Parents are awesome. Yeah, they really are, guys. Our parents work hard. I think, you know, if you got some good parents out there, show them some love, not just because it's Mother's Day or Father's Day, but daily we need to be loving on our loved ones, telling them that we thank them, we appreciate them, because it's hard being a person, let alone a parent. It's hard being a person who's not angry, who's not going off constantly. It's hard out here, guys, and I appreciate you guys for hanging in there with me, for tuning in, liking, commenting, sharing, viewing, talking about the videos, whatever you're doing to spread what I'm talking about here. I appreciate you, and I thank you so much. So see you guys. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of the week. See ya.